Imagine waking up one day to find your world flipped upside down. One minute you're making $100,000 a day, living like a boss, and the next, that number drops to just $40,000. Suddenly, everything you worked for seems to be slipping through your fingers. For Fetty Wap, this wasn't a bad dream. It was his reality. Fetty Wap was once the hottest name in hip-hop, riding the wave of success with back-to-back hits and an iconic anthem, Trap Queen. He had it all, the fame, the fortune, the flashy lifestyle. But just as quickly as he rose to the top, everything started to unravel. From facing legal battles to personal tragedies, the story of Fetty Wap is one of extreme highs and devastating lows. How did a young rapper from Paterson, New Jersey, go from the top of the charts to facing federal charges? Let's break it down and see how the trap star fell from grace.
Section 1. Fetty's Breakthrough and Early Struggles. In 2014, a fresh voice from Paterson, New Jersey caught everyone's attention. Fetty Wap, real name Willie Jr. Maxwell II, wasn't just another rapper, he was a game changer. With a catchy hook and a gritty story, his track, Trap Queen, became an instant anthem, a song that would launch him into superstardom. The track hit number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100, making history as one of the biggest records of that year. But what made Fetty's success even sweeter? He wasn't just a one-hit wonder, he was breaking barriers, setting records, and changing the landscape of hip-hop. But Fetty's rise to fame wasn't just about his hit singles or flashy lifestyle. His backstory played a huge part in the way fans connected with him. From a young age, Fetty faced challenges that would have broken most people. When he was just 6 months old, he lost his left eye to congenital glaucoma, a rare condition that causes fluid to build up in the eye. The physical difference set him apart, and growing up in Paterson wasn't easy. Other kids often tested him, leading to altercations that marked his early life. But Fetty didn't let it break him. In fact, it fueled his fire. At 12, he underwent reconstructive surgery, but as he hit his late teens, Fetty made a bold decision. Instead of hiding behind a fake eye, he embraced his unique look. This choice became part of his image, reinforcing the idea that he was a survivor, someone who wasn't afraid to be real no matter the odds. Despite the hardships, Fetty's early life wasn't all struggle. He knew what it meant to hustle, to fight for every penny. After dropping out of school, he found himself living on the streets, sometimes without a place to lay his head. As he put it, "I didn't even get to use no bed. I was lucky to have a carpet." Life was tough, but those hard days shaped Fetty's drive, pushing him to hustle and eventually find success in a world that seemed stacked against him. By 2015, Trap Queen had made its mark, and everything changed for Fetty. He signed to 300 Entertainment, and in just a few short months, he was on top of the hip-hop world. But this was only the beginning. His story was about to take a much more complicated turn.
Section 2. The peak of his career. By 2015, Fetty Wap wasn't just a trending artist. He was a bona fide hip-hop icon. Trap Queen wasn't just a song, it was the soundtrack of the summer. But that was only the start. Fetty wasn't content with just one hit. He came for the whole game, and he didn't just take over the charts, he changed them. In a feat that hadn't been seen since Eminem in the early 2000s, Fetty Wap made history by having 3 songs in the top 20 of the Billboard Hot 100 at the same time. 679, My Way, and Again were all on repeat everywhere, from clubs to radio stations to street corners. His debut self-titled album dropped, and it shot straight to the top of the Billboard 200. The streets were all about Fetty Wap, and he was basking in the glory of his success. By 2015, he had won multiple awards, Billboard Music Awards, iHeartRadio Music Awards, and even earned 2 Grammy nominations. Fetty was a star in every sense of the word, living the dream most artists only fantasize about. He was taking victory laps with designer clothes, multiple homes, and a life of luxury that was nearly impossible to imagine just a few years earlier. But even at the height of his career, the cracks were beginning to show. On September 26, 2015, Fetty Wap was involved in a serious motorcycle accident in his hometown of Patterson, Florida. The wreck was brutal, a head-on collision with another car that left him with a broken leg in 3 places. While most would have been down for the count, Fetty kept a G. He posted updates on Instagram to let fans know he was all right, showing the world that even in pain, he was still riding. However, it wasn't just his health that was at risk. In true struggle-turned-success fashion, the accident added to a growing list of challenges. The authorities hit him with tickets for no license, no insurance, and no registration, a reminder that even when you're on top, the system's hurdles never stop. Yet, despite all this, the money kept rolling in. Fetty was stacking it, big time. He claimed to have been making $100,000 every single day at his peak. But even when the cash was pouring in, things were beginning to shift.
Section 3. The lavish lifestyle. At the height of his success, Fetty Wap wasn't just living a normal life. He was living a movie. The man went from barely scraping by to becoming a walking billboard for excess. With millions in the bank, he was flexing hard, and he wasn't shy about it. Multiple cribs? Check. A fleet of cars? Of course. Designer gear for days? You bet. Fetty's life was a showcase of luxury, and he wasn't just living it for himself. He was bringing the whole squad along for the ride. When he wasn't working on his music, he was making sure his crew was taken care of, dropping thousands on gifts and gear for his team. I didn't like staying in hotels, Fetty admitted. I had a lot of apartments. I just didn't like people knocking on my door when they felt like it. He preferred the freedom of having a few places of his own where he could move without restriction. The man had so many apartments, he didn't even know what to do with them. And when it came to fashion, Fetty's spending was on a whole other level. If he liked something, he didn't just buy one, he bought for everyone. Imagine walking into a mall and picking up $500 jeans for your entire entourage. That was Fetty's world. He would drop crazy amounts of money on high-end designer items, including $1,500 jeans that most people could only dream of. I just love Robin jeans, Fetty shared, reminiscing about his shopping sprees. It wasn't about looking flashy for the cameras. It was about treating his people right, and sometimes that meant going big. But as much as Fetty was spending, the money kept flowing. In interviews, he talked about seeing numbers in his bank account that most of us can only imagine. The most I saw in my account was $22 million, he said with a grin. But for all the money that was coming in, there was always a sense that it might not last. Despite the riches, there were underlying financial pressures Fetty was just starting to feel. And with those pressures, it wasn't long before the consequences of his lifestyle started to show.
Section 4. Personal life drama. While Fetty Wap was collecting platinum plaques and living large, his personal life was anything but quiet. Behind the flashing lights and endless streams of cash, there was a whirlwind of drama. Fetty's relationships were as complicated as they come, with 6 children from 5 different women. His love life was constantly in the headlines, with some of his baby mamas praising him as a good co-parent, while others were tangled in public disputes. But the drama didn't stop there. In September 2019, Fetty married model Leandra K. Gonzalez, but that marriage would be short-lived, ending in divorce less than a year later with no kids involved, adding even more chaos to an already complicated situation. However, the most public of his personal scandals came in January 2017 when a sex tape featuring Fetty and his ex-girlfriend, Alexis Skye, hit the internet. It brought unwanted attention and became just another layer in the mess of his personal life. Despite the chaos, Fetty always tried to stay grounded in his role as a father. In interviews, he spoke passionately about what it meant to be a good parent.
love, and time, he said, stressing that money wasn't the most important thing. Money don't mean nothing. You want to be looked at as dad, not just the guy who cuts the checks. He admitted that being present was what really mattered to him, and he made a point to be involved in his children's lives no matter what was going on around him. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Fetty's desire to be there for his kids was put to the test as his career began to decline and his personal issues mounted. But one thing was clear. He was determined not to repeat the mistakes of others and wanted to be a real father. When they come, spend as much time as you possibly can because you can never get that back, he shared, emphasizing the importance of time over money.
Section 5. Tragedy strikes. Just when things seemed like they couldn't get worse, tragedy struck Fetty Wap in a way that no amount of money or fame could shield him from. In October 2020, Fetty's world was rocked when his brother, Tashawn Du, was tragically gunned down. Losing a sibling is never easy, but for Fetty, the pain was unimaginable. He poured his hurt out on Instagram, showing just how much the loss had shaken him. The grief was still fresh, but even in the face of this devastating blow, he pressed on. However, nothing could prepare him for the most heart-wrenching loss of all. In June 2021, his 4-year-old daughter, Lauren Maxwell, passed away. The cause was later revealed to be a fatal cardiac arrhythmia due to congenital cardiac anomalies, a heart defect that Lauren had since birth. Fetty was in Miami at the time when he received the soul-crushing news via FaceTime from Lauren's mother, Turquoise Miami. The pain of losing a child is something no parent should ever endure. Fetty, devastated and searching for answers, opened up about his feelings, saying, 4 years old, no health problems. What the, why, how? So many questions. The loss left him questioning everything, even his faith, and the weight of the grief was enough to make anyone want to give up. Despite being completely broken inside, Fetty made an emotional decision to honor his daughter's memory by continuing to work. Just days after the devastating loss, he still took the stage at Rolling Loud Miami, dedicating his performance to Lauren. His ability to perform despite his emotional devastation spoke volumes about his resilience. His tribute to his daughter wasn't just for the crowd, it was for him. It was a way to channel his pain and grief into something positive, even if it was just for a brief moment.
Section 6. The downfall and legal issues. By 2017, the same trajectory that once seemed unstoppable for Fetty Wap began to stall. The massive wave he caught with Trap Queen had faded, and his new tracks weren't hitting the same way. Jimmy Choo, Wake Up, and Kiki, though decent hits, weren't able to replicate the explosive success of his earlier work. The charts that once bowed to him now seemed to be out of reach, and Fetty started noticing that something wasn't right. It wasn't just his music that was declining. Fetty's financial empire, which once seemed bulletproof, started showing cracks. He spoke openly about how his income began shrinking drastically. He had been used to pulling in $100,000 a day, until one morning he woke up and only made $40,000. He said, "Something ain't right," recognizing the shift. It wasn't just a dip, it felt like the beginning of something worse. It was around this time that he realized how quickly everything could change, how the money wasn't going to last forever if he didn't adjust. But even with his career slowing down, Fetty had a harsh realization about his financial situation. His lavish lifestyle was bleeding him dry. He said, "When I started looking at my bills, I was like, what the hell am I doing?" he admitted. The $10,000 a month car insurance bills for his fleet of cars were one of many expenses he wasn't fully aware of. With no tours coming in due to the pandemic and his streams not bringing in the cash they once did, Fetty faced an uncertain future. But the worst was yet to come.
In October 2021, Fetty's past caught up with him in a major way when the feds arrested him at Citi Field in New York just before he was supposed to perform at Rolling Loud. He was charged with participating in a massive drug trafficking conspiracy that spanned over a year. The feds accused him of moving over 100 kilos of cocaine, heroin, fentanyl, and crack across New Jersey and Long Island. It wasn't a small-time operation. They seized $1.5 million in cash, kilos of drugs, firearms, and ammunition. This was a far cry from the image of the flashy, successful rapper who had once been on top. Fetty was caught up in an operation that involved some serious people, and the consequences were dire. The arrest was a stark reminder that no amount of fame or fortune could protect you from your past actions. And this wasn't his first encounter with the law. Fetty had a history of legal issues, drunk driving, drag racing, and other incidents that hinted at a deeper pattern of reckless behavior. But this time, it wasn't just a fine or suspension, it was federal charges, and they were serious. Fetty initially pled not guilty, but soon after, the reality of his situation began to set in.
Section 7. The Prison Sentence and Reflection. After the arrest, things only escalated for Fetty Wap. In August 2022, his legal troubles deepened when prosecutors revealed that Fetty had made threats during a FaceTime call, showing a firearm and allegedly saying he was ready to take someone out. The violation led to his bail being revoked, and soon after, Fetty was taken into custody and sent to the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. With the once promising rap star now behind bars, the gravity of his downfall was undeniable. By May 2023, the inevitable happened. Fetty Wap pled guilty to conspiracy to distribute 500 grams or more of cocaine, a charge that carried a mandatory minimum sentence of 5 years. Despite his fame and wealth, the realities of his situation set in hard. In court, Fetty took full responsibility for his actions, acknowledging the selfishness and pride that led him down this path. "Me being selfish in my pride put me in this position today," he said, apologizing for the hurt he caused his community, his family, and his fans. The legal team argued that Fetty's return to the streets was driven by financial desperation, especially after the devastating impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on his music career. On May 24, 2023, U.S. District Judge Joanna Sabert sentenced Fetty to 6 years in federal prison, with 5 years of supervised release after his release. The prosecution pushed for a longer sentence, citing how Fetty had used his fame to promote and glamorize the drug trade. But in the end, Fetty's legal team made it clear that he was just trying to support his family during a time of financial ruin, not glorify a lifestyle he once escaped. Despite the heavy sentence, the reaction from his fans was mixed. Some couldn't understand why a man who had achieved so much would risk everything, while others were more empathetic, recognizing the pressures and struggles he faced behind the scenes. The whole situation was a tragic reminder of how quickly life can change. A man who once had the world at his feet was now facing years behind bars. But even in the darkest moments, there was a sense of resilience in Fetty.
Section 8. Fetty's Resilience and Future. Even from behind bars, Fetty Wap hasn't let go of his passion for music. Despite facing a 6-year prison sentence, he's shown that his commitment to his craft remains strong. In November 2023, Fetty released his third studio album, King Zoo, featuring a verse from Coi Leray. The album marked his determination to keep pushing forward, even as his freedom remained limited. It was clear that he wasn't ready to let his career fade into the background, despite the challenges he faced. He used this project as a way to stay connected with his fans and to prove that he could still make meaningful music. His efforts weren't just limited to the music. Fetty stayed active on social media, finding ways to keep his presence alive. Industry peers like 50 Cent and Coi Leray reached out to offer support, helping to keep his spirits high during this difficult time. Despite being locked away in a cell, Fetty managed to maintain a sense of connection with the outside world, something that helped him hold on to his sanity as he faced what could be years without the life he once knew. But even with new music in the mix, it's clear that Fetty has had to evolve. His time in prison forced him to reflect on his journey and the choices he made. As he put it, he's found a new perspective, a level of peace that he didn't have before. "I'm really at peace with so much pain and heartache that still lingers around me," he shared, showing that even though the loss of his daughter and brother still weighs on him, he's found a way to cope. His mentality has shifted, especially when it comes to his role as a father. The man who once lived for the spotlight now emphasizes the importance of being present for his children. Through the heartache, the loss, and the mistakes, Fetty Wap has displayed a level of resilience that's hard to ignore. Fans have continued to show love and support, with his 2015 hit again gaining new life on platforms like TikTok and Instagram Reels in 2025. His music, though not as commercially successful as it once was, still has an undeniable impact, and his influence on hip-hop is far from over. The future is still uncertain, but as he heads toward his release date in 2027, there's a sense that this might not be the end of Fetty Wap's story. If anything, it could be the beginning of a new chapter. Whether or not he returns to the top of the charts is anyone's guess, but one thing is for sure: Fetty Wap's resilience and dedication to his craft make it clear that he's not done yet.
In conclusion, Fetty Wap's journey is one of extremes, from the heights of superstardom to the depths of personal and legal turmoil. His story is a stark reminder of how quickly things can change. He went from making hundreds of thousands a day to struggling financially, from living a lavish lifestyle to facing the harsh realities of prison life. But through it all, he's shown incredible resilience. The tragedies that have shaped him, including the devastating loss of his daughter and brother, have undoubtedly left scars, but they've also sparked a transformation. His time behind bars has forced him to reevaluate everything, from his relationships to his music, and most importantly, his role as a father. While his future in the industry remains uncertain, Fetty's story isn't just about fame and fortune. It's about growth, redemption, and finding peace amid chaos. As he serves his time, Fetty's music continues to resonate with fans, and the world is watching to see what comes next. His journey isn't over, it's evolving, and when he finally walks out of those prison gates in 2027, it won't just be the end of his sentence, it'll be the start of a new chapter, one that could prove to be even more impactful than the rise to fame that began with Trap Queen. Fetty's story is far from done. If anything, it's just getting started.